All right, welcome to the third and final installment in a series of business topics, Make Mo Money. Today's speaker, Robin Royals, is the VP COO of Wisnich, an ERP system tailored for small businesses that integrates key business functions to streamline processes and uncover deeper business. He has always had a true passion for operational excellence, having spent his entire career helping enterprise, medium, and small businesses to streamline their service delivery to improve customer satisfaction and profitability insights. In his session, Technology Equals Profits, he will lay it all out as he describes the process, discipline, technology rigor throughout business functions. Technology can be your solution to repeatable tasks. The right solution can be a real game changer for you and your business. Welcome, Robin. And if you are ready, I will send it on over to you.
All righty. Good afternoon. Hope you guys had a good break. Before I start off, I wanted to give you just a few more highlights of my background, and then we'll have our little talk. Athletics and education have always been important to me. I was tops in my class in high school as a valedictorian and an all-city quarterback in the city of Detroit. 48217, the zip code that I grew up in, was and still is the most polluted zip code in the state of Michigan. We were surrounded by Ford Motor Company, Great Lakes Steel, McLeod Steel, and other manufacturing plants. But I was able to rise above it and attend the Wharton School of Business, University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. My early work experience kind of shaped who I am today. At the age of 25, I was a credit manager for a bank in Detroit, Michigan National Bank of Detroit. I had 18 associates who worked for me. We underwrote loans. So what does that mean? If you've ever applied for a line of credit or a term loan and was asked to submit financials in a loan package, that came to my department and we would determine whether or not that loan would be approved. Because of that experience, I was able to, to this day, if you give me 3 to 5 years of financial statements, I can identify your points of pain and opportunities to improve your operating results without even talking to you. Now, those are some significant life skills to get at an early age, and it's proven to be very important throughout my career. The last thing is the combination of some of the experiences I've had as a credit manager, as a loan officer, and then as a quality leader at GE, gave me some significant or unique insights into small and medium-sized businesses. After I left the credit manager job and became a loan officer, I lent money to small to medium-sized businesses in the metropolitan Detroit area. You really get to know a customer or really get to know an owner when you lend money to them. Their psyche, what's going on in their head, you learn a lot. My last corporate job that I had was with GE, and we were big on quality and Six Sigma. We were using data to identify the root causes of what was going on in the business. After becoming a black belt, I ended up becoming the quality leader for the business, where I deployed some 300 resources around the world: India, UK, Australia, and the United States. And so those things became very important to me. So those are some additional tidbits I'm giving you. But if I were you and I was sitting there, I would say, well, so what? You already read your bio. That didn't do much for me. So why should I listen to you? The reason why you should listen to me is because I'm an operational expert. I've been trained in techniques to identify root causes, which eliminate a lot of the re's, the rework, the redos, the lost revenue. And I've proven throughout my career that a lot of these same techniques that are used in larger companies also apply to small companies to improve your customer satisfaction and improve your profitability. So you probably still say, I read your resume, I've done all that. but I don't see anything in there about radon. So what do you know about my industry? What I've learned in my career is GE was a big company. We had 300,000 people. We were in industries from NBC to television to credit cards to aircraft engines, locomotives. We did everything. And we would take people and move them from business to business. I worked in probably 5 different businesses during my career there. And once you got in and got past some buzzwords and nomenclature, you found out, especially as it pertained to those repeatable processes, those things that we have to do, every business has to do day in and day out, doesn't separate you from your competition. But you got to do payables, you got to do your receivables, you got to do your collections, all those things that we hate to do were the same in all these businesses, as this is the same in yours. Do you think that doctor who went to medical school and was trained up on how to, practice medicine when he got out, ever envisioned that he would have to worry about billing people and collections and really be a business person? Probably not. So if you can just listen to me for the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to share with you an experience I had in working with a small radon company and how we were able to, through technology, improve the operating performance and create more money for that operator. But first, let's start with some stats. The Small Business Association estimates that there are some 30 plus million small businesses in the United States. 80+% or over 80+% of those small businesses still use multiple manual processes, a lot of paper. Because of that, it's estimated that 40 to 50% of their revenue is lost to just processing those manual transactions. Stated another way, you could improve your profitability, what goes into your pocket after expenses, by 40 to 50%, not increasing your sales, but just changing the way you do what you do. Let me tell you about my friend John. Now, John started his business, and he's a radon company, started his business in 2010. We were just kind of coming out of the Great Recession of 2008. Economy was picking up, and he was doing well. He's a hard worker. He had about 5 associates that worked for him. By 2018, he was really proud of the fact that he grew his revenues to over $750,000. And his staff was productive, yet his turnover was high for some reason. He never seemed to have enough time, if that sounds familiar. He worked 10 to 12 hours a day in the field and came home at night and oftentimes spent a couple more hours just booking the transactions from the day and getting prepared to go out there and do it again the next day. And on top of all that, he was breaking even in many years, losing a little bit of money as it pertained to profits. He looked in the mirror oftentimes and wondered, would he be better off if he was working for somebody else? So he asked me if I would help him. And I said, sure. So we went out there and had a discussion. It became very clear from the outset that he relied a lot on manual processes and had kind of what I would call a lack of process discipline. As I went back to my banking days, I asked for 3 to 5 years of financial information. And he says, what do you need? And I said, a balance sheet, income statement. And he said, I don't do a balance sheet. That's not important to me, but I have the income statement. So he gave me 3 years. They were all on a comparative sheet, but it was like 8-10 pages of information that he printed off from QuickBooks. Way too complicated. As we started talking through the financials, it became kind of evident that he was inconsistent in terms of how he booked things. The beauty of doing the financial statement comparison is that you can find trends. You can see where things are going up or things are going down, consistent. But if they're not booked in the proper accounts year over year, it doesn't tell you anything. The second thing that became apparent was he had a low level of financial literacy. In other words, he didn't really understand his numbers as well as he should have. And when we talked about that turnover, what was driving the turnover, it appeared to be, because I didn't know for sure, but he had a training program, but the training program wasn't effective. He would bring people in, and I thought he did a good job of bringing people in the door, but he's bringing people in reaction to additional sales that he was getting and wanting to get a return on what he was paying these employees. He pushed them out in the field a little bit, maybe too early, and they get out and realize they weren't trained up, and out of frustration, they would leave the company. Other problems that kind of stuck out were there were multiple entry points of data into the system. I told you he used QuickBooks. And he also had a number of side little spreadsheets that he was tracking things on, tracking his monitors, getting the technicians to kind of track when you showed up, how long did it take you to do something, and so forth and so on. There was a heavy reliance on human manual input versus technology. So what happens is people make mistakes. They put the wrong numbers in. They sometimes transpose figures. They're human. But sometimes they do it deliberately, because if you're tracking on how long it's supposed to take them to do something, they're not meeting your standards. Maybe they don't necessarily put down the right information about how long it actually took them. So the technicians were spending way too much time answering phones, doing a lot of the manual inputs, and not doing the things that they were hired to do, which is to help drive more income for the company. Then he was in a regulated state, and on a monthly basis, he had to roll up to the state the results of the transactions that he had done during the month. Because it was manual, that was a real headache. That was a real problem. And let's not even talk about what he had to go through to try to track what his employees were doing during a given day, because they were supporting all of metropolitan Kansas City and just trying to keep up with what they were doing. Now, what happens is businesses start with an idea or dream. And initially, all we think we got to do is get more revenue. If I could just get more revenue, everything would be okay. But what happens with that increased revenue is that you get away from knowing every employee, every customer, and every problem that exists within your company. You become distant. So I'll often ask people, well, how are you going to address that? And so I'm going to go out and find somebody just like me, a young, hungry person. I'll bring them in under my wings, and I'll train them up, and that'll solve my problem. Well, I call that mini me. If you go out and you're successful in finding a mini me who's kind of just like you at a younger age, well, guess what? Mini me probably has that same gene that you have in yourself. They want to be in business for themselves. If you identify them, more than likely they are already in business for themselves. If not, they're going to come work for you, and they're not going to stay very long. So if you're trying to move from being this smaller company to get to the next level, how do you do it? You need to make sure you got the right processes in place, that you hire the right people, you understand your financials, and you control your operating expenses. So what did we do with John? First thing I did with John was to sit down and try to understand what his involvement was in the business. Because he started it was small, John was involved in every aspect of the business, everything. He was a chief cook and chief bottle washer. So my strategy was, how do I help John get out of his business so he could get out and work on his business? That started with identifying the key roles in his company and writing down roles and responsibilities as to what those jobs were supposed to be. We took a look at his current staffing and realized that we needed to make some changes in staffing and upgrade so that they could take on more responsibilities and get that off John's plate. We were successful at getting that done. We added technology to the record keeping and the bookkeeping. That was an advantage because, like I said, there had been multiple entries throughout the way he ran things before, making all kind of mistakes, requiring reconciliations at the end of the month, trying to figure out what was going on. Because we brought technology to the table, we entered the information once and it fed all the other systems. So we eliminate those mistakes. Simplified the financial information. Like I said, he didn't have a balance sheet. We took those 8 pages of income statements and reduced that to 2 pages. 1 page for a balance sheet, another page for the income statement. And we would meet once a month and talk about how the balance sheet and the income statement were connected. That financial literacy went through the roof. Those meetings that we used to have when we talked about the numbers moved from being more of a grudgery and something to his financials became a real tool in terms of how he ran his business and had insights and understood what was going on. We added technology to the scheduling, estimating, and invoicing. Like I said, it was a small company, did a lot of manual things, even used to create manual invoices. Not a good look, didn't look very professional. There were errors that were being made, mistakes. By introducing technology, he raised his profile. He looked like he was a bigger company, was much more professional, eliminated those errors, eliminated some of the rework in that area. Customers got confused in terms of how big he really was. They thought that because the way he ran his business and the professionalism that he brought to the table, that he was much bigger than he really was. Then we created what we call automated workflows for inspection, test kits, and mitigation. The advantage there was it documented how things should be done. Now you've done a great job of building your companies, and you want people who work for you to do things the way that you would do them, but they're not you. So the only way, as I mentioned before, they become that mini me is through documenting your processes. By them doing that and being able to follow what's been documented, everyone who's involved in inspections, everyone who's involved in mitigation, they do it the same way. So they eliminate errors, wasted time, because people are smart. If you hire people and you don't train them right, and you put them out in the field, they're not going to come back and tell you I was unsuccessful in getting it done. They'll get it done. But if you got 5 employees, 10 employees, you probably have 5 to 10 different ways of doing it if you haven't clearly documented how you want it done so you can follow it. So what did that do? It allowed us to reduce the staff by almost 50%. What was the overall results to the company? First, from a visual perspective, when you walked into his office before, you'd see paper on the floor, on the desk, phones ringing, just chaotic. Today you walk in, there's not a speck of paper on anyone's desk. They run their business through their iPhone, their iPad, or their desktop. And what do you think happened with their key metrics? The number of inspections, the number of inthaws, the number of appointments, they actually increased. Increased with less people. Definition of productivity. And he went from losing $7,000 the year before we made these changes to actually making $150,000 in profit after making these changes. Transform the company. And the beauty about it is once you transform it, you don't go back to doing it. It's not a one-shot deal. You get this over and over and over again, and you never do business the same way again. Finally, closing, I'd like to talk to you about what I call industry design software. Like I told you, I worked at GE, and we had the human resources and financial resources to throw at our organizational problems. Like I said, we had a quality department with 300 people in it. Some of these problems were so big, it would take us 6 months to a year to figure them out. But once we did, saved a lot of money for the company. Small businesses don't have that luxury, and they don't have time to waste any money. By investing in the right technology, that's been designed by an operator. That person's been doing what you were doing, and they were designed it. They've identified areas that need to be streamlined. And you don't have to try to go in and figure it out and do any guesswork. They've done that hard work for you already through their software. Now, I've run large companies, large process improvement organizations, and worked with small to medium-sized companies. And I've seen the difference that automation can have, and including with radon companies. So believe me, if you can find the right solution, it can be a real game changer for you. And with that, I'll close and take some questions if you have any.
Thank you so much, Robin. We really appreciate that. I know that means a lot to me, and so many of us, we're all so busy working in our business that it's so hard sometimes just to step back and take a moment to say, you know what, how can I work on my business instead? That's the hardest thing, to kind of shift, gears and your thoughts about how to make that happen. So really appreciate you taking the time to kind of bring to light some of those things, some things that we could do to actually make us work on our business and not in our business so much. So want to thank you so much. Now I want to see if anyone has any questions. Please feel free, and we'll get those answered for you. Okay, so I do have a couple questions.
Okay.
People are wondering, how can they find out more about the software?
I don't know how openly I can talk about it, but there is software available which I can give you more information on, but just you guys have to give me guidance in terms of what I can and cannot say. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe you can connect with that person offline.
Yeah. Have them contact me offline.
Yeah. I would interrupt to make sure that his contact information is available for everybody, Dawn.
Thank you. Thank you, Dallas.
Okay. You can find his contact information in the session information. Is that correct, Dallas?
I believe so. And Nicole,
Here's a question. It should be as well as in his bio. So we'll double check it's all there, you guys.
okay.
There's now a question in the Q&A. Can I throw that in real quick?
Yeah, please do.
For small businesses, what about software system development? Microsoft doesn't do it all. How much should one budget? How much would you expect to budget for these services?
Budget for
Software.
creating your own or buying something off the shelf. What do you?
I think, why don't you comment on buying off the shelf? That might be the helpful answer. Thank you.
Well, you have to kind of look at your financials and look, what it would pay. You'd have to pay someone to do those activities. So if you're manual and you're doing it manually, what are you paying that person annually? Or maybe it's not one person, maybe it's several people.
Okay.
So your cost analysis has to throw in, what does it cost me to do it today versus what it's going to cost me for the software. I would venture to guess that the software is probably going to be cheaper if it's the right fit for your company. But it's, just because you're not, software doesn't get sick, and
Okay.
That monthly, it's going to be much cheaper.
Great. You might be hearing from some people offline. Thanks.
Okay.
There was one more question on, do you have specific training webinars for small business?
Yeah, like what we're doing here? Is that what you mean, Dallas?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
I can, I'm flexible. Can do what I don't have anything I can pull off right now, but if there's a desire, could certainly look at putting something together that would be helpful.
Okay.
I love this stuff. I do it for free, so I just like whatever.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you so much, Robin. That sounds awesome. I know you're a great resource, and I'm sure many many people can benefit and learn from you. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it.